for a minute. Let's call you IT girl. Megan is the thought leader in the world of technology and its uses. An educator and techno geek, Megan combined her passion for education and technology and founded Tech Coach HQ, working with businesses and schools to improve processes and embrace the productivity technology has to offer. Covering a unique portfolio of mobile training and education solutions, Megan delivers, engages her clients and audiences and clears technology confusion. So everyone, welcome Megan.
So I guess I want to sort of start about asking you, what do you use in your daily life? So put your hand up if you're iOS user, so iPad or iPhone. Okay, Android, Windows, non-smartphone, so Nokia or those other things. So everybody in business is starting to use these devices. Now, I'll tell you a true story. Up until recently, which was just January, I got myself a smartphone. Now you think, why doesn't the technology coach have a smartphone? Well, I actually really had a need to, because I survived on my iPad. Now I have an iPad 1 and I have an iPad 4. So, last year in November, and you can look it up on my blog and on my Pinterest page, I survived on my iPad for 30 days. Just my iPad. No laptop, just my iPad. And I blogged about it every day. Smart Company picked it up day after Melbourne Cup Day, and I wrote for Australian Anthill and Leaders in Heels and a few other websites that I contribute regularly about my experience, just to prove to people that you can actually do it. So what I want to talk to you about today is the magic of time management. So 7 awesome tools for SMEs and even for corporates. So this is where you can take it back to your clients and go, you know what, these are some really great tools. A lot of them are free. Because coming from the background of education, teachers don't have money. We have to find free things, otherwise we don't survive, or it has to be very low cost. So with some of these apps, they are very low cost, so you wouldn't probably be looking any more than $10 regardless. Some of them go across different platforms, some of them are iOS, and some of them are web-based. So, let's go. Now, a client of mine sent this statue, or this image of a digital statue. Well, I call it a digital statue. It's actually from Mexico. And in Mexico, just over the Quezon, just off the coast, they've planted these statues in the water. And the reason I like it, I used to actually have a picture of an ostrich with its head in the sand. I used to call it the digital ostrich. So people stick their heads in the sand going, no, things aren't going to change. Things like cloud computing or mobile devices or whatever it might be, it's not going to change. I'll just stick my head in the sand and I'll get it back up and then stick it back down again. So I thought this was a perfect example. It's a digital statue, someone who thinks that, you know, social media is going to go away, or, you know, some of those concepts. So from that, now, I do apologise about the name, and John, you'd love this one. It's Doodlecom. And I was speaking to a group of chartered accountants on Friday, largely baby boomers and Gen X population, mostly male, and I had to talk about this, and it was like, oh, 9:30 in the morning. Wasn't probably the ideal time, but it's Doodle.com. And the reason I like it is that it's a time scheduler app. So a lot of people, for example, when I'm organising events or I'm being booked as a speaker or, you know, as a trainer, I'm going backwards and forwards between my clients, going, yes, I've got this date free. And there's nothing worse than playing email tag. And you put your hand up if you've ever played email tag. Going, oh, can you do this date? No, I can't do this. And you go backwards and forwards. In the end, I just get the phone call. Right, okay, give me the dates, and we'll go from there. So what Doodle.com it does is that you, as the organiser, set up the possible times. You can have multiple dates, and then you set up the times. And then you send out that invite to people. And the great thing about this, you can see on this image, at 11 o'clock on the 27th of May 2014, everyone was available. So guess what? That was the time for the meeting. Because there's nothing worse trying to play email tag, especially, it's okay sometimes between 2 individuals, but when you start involving more individuals, it starts getting more messy. So, Doodle.com is a really great tool. You can send the invite out, you don't have to sign up, you just look at the link, click on the dates, and then comes back to you as the organiser, I guess call it the lowest common denominator. When can everyone come? And then go from there. So for me, time scheduling is a really important thing because most of us are time poor. We don't want to, yes?
Because there's an interface into Outlook, Google.
Yes. So what basically happens after that is once you've done that as contacts, bang, it goes through. So it's a really cool tool. That. So dealing with scheduling. And so time, so whether you use a Google Calendar, and I think that's the most important thing, is finding a system that works for you. A lot of my clients, I almost do a bit of a app analysis. So when I look at what their business is, and I go through it, I'm kind of like an app pharmacist. So I'll say, what is your business? What are you doing? How do I eliminate all those questions? Because people don't have the time to research apps. So today I've probably looked at least 100 apps today, both Android and iOS. So I go through, test them, analyse them, evaluate them before I give them out to my clients. Because that's what they're paying me to do. They're paying me to go, right, here's the workflow, this is what I can do. So whether it's Google Calendar, once you've got a good system, I find you're right. And that's the same with anything in life. If you've got a good system and that process that's been mentioned several times tonight, you can't go wrong.
Excuse me.
Yep.
How do you know what's a good system without having to learn all the systems to find out which one suits you?
It's kind of like personality traits. So, for example, and thank you so much for John for mentioning these examples. So if you're a visual learner, or you're an auditory learner, or you're a kinesthetic learner, I've got in my, app kit, certain things that will suit you. So for example, if you're trying to learn a new concept, and you're an auditory person, it's no good teaching you brainstorming and mind mapping, because it's just not going to work. So understanding how you learn and how you work in your daily processes. Are you an organised person? Like one of my clients came to me, a client from New South Wales, totally disorganised. And he needed a system to provide him, and just as he started talking, as a teacher you pick up little, keywords and things going, right, that's kind of like a warning sign. And so you implement baby steps to get them organised. So for example, with a calendar, a simple one might be you like colours. So for example, I know on my calendar that if I see green, it means work. If it means blue, it might be catch up with family or whatever. But I know as soon as I see that, then that's what it is. So once you've got that, and sometimes you have to tweak it, but you'll know when it works for you most of the time. Now, when I was at this Institute of Chartered Accountants conference on Friday, accountants need to get up to speed with technology. It's not a kind of maybe, it's yes you need to, you've got no choice. Otherwise you're going to get left behind and your competitor's going to stream right ahead. And one of those, buzzwords is cloud computing. Cloud, for anyone who needs to know, is just the internet. It's nothing special, it's just the internet. So with a lot of systems these days, we're talking about document storage or cloud storage. Now Microsoft has its own products. Microsoft has just released, not so long ago, 3 lots of apps, Word, Excel and PowerPoint. Now, there is a tiny wee little catch, and that is that you need a Office 365 subscription to actually be able to edit those documents. Otherwise, you can only read them. So it's a very fine, people go, oh, it's so fantastic. It's like, yes, unless you've got Office 365, you're screwed. You can't actually use it. So Cloud is one of the options, and it's free. And it's a really good tool. So what I use Cloud, and we'll just switch into the app in a minute. But basically, I have Google Drive and I have Dropbox. So I sign into those accounts, and I can create brand new Word, Excel, and PowerPoint documents from scratch while I'm meeting clients, so I can be taking notes. With accountants, this is the best tool. And you can actually edit things on the go. I was working with an accounting firm in North Melbourne. They'd gone paperless, and each of them had an iPad. And they go to the coffee shop for their staff meeting. So I introduced them to this app so that practice manager can actually work doing numbers. And it's not a reduced version, it's quite flexible. So I can sign into the documents, I can edit them, and I can read them and make any changes if I need to.
So is a cloud on is different to Dropbox or?
Cloud is kind of like a conglomerate of services. So it means that it's a cloud-based document, I guess, provider. So you can enter your Google Drive details and you can enter your Dropbox details and access those documents from those accounts. So you can edit them and create new documents, and it basically files them back into that right place. So yes,
So
you
it
can.
brings all these systems together.
Yeah. So rather than using a Google Drive app, which I have, a Dropbox app, which I have,
Right.
it means this one I use specifically for editing documents. And I'll actually go into it. There it is. Just had an update on some reason. So there we go. You might be able to sign because I haven't signed in. But basically, what happens is that you get to see, four fingers up, you get to see what is there. So you can see, if you can see the little W, so that means you know it's a Word document. Or you might see P for PowerPoint. Now, being able to edit documents on the go is a really important thing for any small business owner. It doesn't matter where you are. I've worked with so many clients out, like in a coffee shop, and they've got to go, oh, I've got to ring back the office to get. It's like, well, no, you should actually have your documents on you. At least be able to access them, because otherwise you're wasting valuable time. A really good example of this is tradies and paperwork. And that's why some companies like TradePad and Xero and Geop are really trying to get that tradie industry a lot more organised so that they don't have pieces of paper in the truck. They have to go back to the office and they're wasting valuable time when they could actually be out on the job. And I think that applies to all of us.
Does that mean that you can actually use Excel on your iPad?
Yeah, so within Cloud One, so I sign in. So I got sign into Dropbox or Google Drive. So open Dropbox and all my files there. So I can create a brand new Excel document, edit it, and it's got the full editing suite, and it's free because you can actually pay about $10 for Quick Office Pro HD and documents on the go, and they're about $10 for each app. Do exactly the same thing, but this is free. So, and it's basically, you want, when you're looking for an app, and this is just a piece of advice, when you're looking for an app, try and find an app that you can bring information in and shoot information out. You don't want apps, what I call one-sided, because you're actually going to need another app to do two functions that you could have done with one. And especially for education, you need to be able to, it must be able to email. Can you email that information out? Tick. Can you share it to a cloud-based storage, either Dropbox or Google Drive or Evernote or Box or one of those cloud-based providers? Can you AirPrint? If your device, if you've got an iOS device, can you print from that? Can you PDF it? What can you do with that data? Because it's no good having that information and you actually can't get it out anywhere. So that's why Cloud One's good. So what cloud-based services do you use? Put your hand up. If you currently use a cloud-based service, say Evernote, Xero, Dropbox, Google, put your hand up clearly. Good, pretty much all do. So it's good to be aware of what's out there. Now, optical character recognition is something that's really important. And probably I've learned more about this for someone who's visually impaired. I have two really close friends that are legally blind. One's got retina pigmentosa and the other one has a glass eye. And both of those individuals rely heavily on this technology. Basically, what it means in a nutshell is that text is scanned, or the technology scans text and picks up anything that is an image. So for someone who's visually impaired or blind and is reading a screen, that screen grabs that information and it's either able to read it back or transfer it in some form. So, where would you find it? Well, one of the apps that I use, there's actually a few, but this is Prismo. So this Prismo is for an iOS device, but basically what you're looking for is a scanner app. Now, why would you use a scanner app? Well, you know what? It's nothing worse when you're needing to send a document quickly and you haven't got a scanner on hand. So you haven't got a printer that's got the scanning capability, or you're not near a photocopier that can send it to email. So what I do with this app, have a document, so for example John's document that you had, I would scan that. Now with Prismo, I can actually edit that document. So you scan the text, and it will, this one's got images as well, so then you actually can do something with that information. Because there's nothing worse, one of the ones, there's either Cam Scanner or JotNot Scanner Pro. Cam Scanner is for Android and iOS. JotNot Scanner Pro is for iOS. And basically, it just turns it into a photocopy, a black and white photocopy. So scan the document, choose your grayscale, just like on a photocopier. So for example, I'll show you what one of the things is.
What format?
I'll just show you. Basically, you can come up with several different formats. So, now what you need to look at, if you're an iOS user, oh sorry, it's a bit far. You're looking for the box with the iOS 7 with the arrow pointing up, because that's your export function. That's the easiest. In iOS 6, it was the arrow pointing kind of that way. In iOS 7, it's the arrow pointing up. And this is probably a really good example. I was flying to New Zealand last year, and I had to get a copy of my marriage certificate because my passport had changed to my ticket. So we needed a marriage certificate to prove who I was. And I had 5 minutes before close of business, and I wasn't at home, so I couldn't use the printer. But I had my iPad. So I scanned the document, and if you can see, it's kind of a bit hard to see, so I'll bring that up. So that's my marriage certificate. Now, so here's your scanning button down the bottom. And what you do is, I'm just going to go enhance. Now, the reason, there are some other apps out there, but what happens is, it only kind of goes the whole page. But there's a blue line, it's very faint, but you can actually, say you've taken something a little bit skew width, you get the blue lines, make sure it's exact, save it, and then what happens from that is that you get that process. So the darker I go, the more I'm going to get all those information. So you can actually see the page is slightly crinkled and all the information's come through really clearly.
In Prismo, or what did you use for that one?
That one was JotNot, but see if I had Prismo, then I can edit the text because it actually will break it down. And if you need to add any extra information.
So it scans and edits text? Or
Yeah,
just
Prismo.
edit?
Prismo scans and edits.
And
Whereas
it's Prismo, Android and iOS?
Pretty sure Prismo is just iOS, but if you give my business card, I'll find another option. Because I said, that's the problem when I'm doing my research. Most of the time I have iOS and Android hats on, because 4 days into my blog challenge, someone goes, Megan, I want the Android option. So whether it's as good, testing it's usually a fun bit. But that's why I use it. So I'll just go over that one. So I'll get Prismo up. But I said, it's just letting you know that this information's out there. So here's one of the examples that they've got. And you can see, so there's number 1, there's number 2, and it's actually pretty good because it's transcribed the text from the image. So if you've ever, when I was, and this is a really interesting story, especially for you, John, I actually had chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia diagnosed in my first year of university. And unfortunately, doing a music degree and being a harpsichordist, I needed my hands, and it was a thing that I couldn't use. So I could only practice for, half an hour a day. I was supposed to be doing 6 hours a day. So I had to use technology to help me. So one of them was drag and dictation. So if you've ever got a hand problem, like an RSI problem, I highly recommend drag and dictation for either PC or for Mac or for your phone. So where you can actually speak into the device, and it will actually convert your speech to text. So what happened was I used to use these scanner documents. So scan the page and then I could edit the text, because I said my hands just couldn't type, especially when copying notes from textbooks. So this is where it was a really good example. Yep.
How effective do you find Dragon?
Dragon for desktop is brilliant. Dragon for iOS, okay. Dragon for Android, bad.
So from desktop it's okay.
Yeah, for desktop it's brilliant because you can really train it, and they've got specific versions for specific industries. So if you're a lawyer, they have a lawyer version. And the medical section has medical ones. So, but that's just, but you need to train it. Now, coming to networking events, you're always going to get business cards. And I have a big pile, and look, just as anyone's guilty, like the accountant not dealing with his paperwork, the technology coach still has issues with business cards. And I like business cards, so and I love mine. And someone did this to me at a conference last year. I was a keynote speaker at the Real Estate Institute conference, and so I handed someone my business card, and so she pulled out her iPhone, scanned it and gave it back. She's like, no, my business card is precious. How else are you going to remember me? So I am slowly getting into the habit of going to events and actually snapping them. Evernote Hello is one. Card Munch was LinkedIn's profile. If you have Card Munch, be warned, Evernote has bought it out, and I think as of the end of July, it will be no more. So if you're with Card Munch, you will need to look for an alternative app.
What about Snap?
Pardon?
What about Snap?
There's lots of them out in the market. Like one of my clients is very fussy about features, and so some people go, right, I need it to double-sided, I need it to export to Microsoft Outlook, whatever, I need it to add meeting notes, I need it to remember the location. So everybody has different features what they're looking for, and that will determine what you go for. Evernote Hello is free, and it integrates with your Evernote account. So when you're searching for going, Darren, I met you, can't remember what you do, or Natalie, or Gail, or whoever it might be, I remember what you do, I just can't remember your name. And so what you can do is search within your Evernote account, and it will search through, because of that optical character recognition, it will scan the business card. Go, this is what you're into. And that's what it goes for. So from that point of view, and then you can import those details into your contact. Yeah.
With Evernote Hello, how do you get it to convert into Outlook contacts?
Well, that's the problem with it, saving it to your mail. So like your normal contacts on your iPhone or whatever device you have. So it depends on whether that's synced back. But as I said, it's connected with your contacts on your iOS device, not necessarily Outlook. But there's ones that will specifically do Outlook, Microsoft Outlook. So it's just something to keep in mind. The biggest trouble my clients are facing at the moment, and I think it's in lots of industry, is the balance between paper and digital. Because we all have paper at some point. Some industries are more strict with compliance about needing to keep paper audits. Accountants are one of them. Real estate agents are another. They have to keep paper records. Now, until that focus changes, it won't shift. But if you think about yourself, how many of you, when you bought a new product, like a new appliance or a car, or you've got important documents like marriage certificates, birth certificates, passports, how many of you have got digital copies? Is it? Good. So some of you have got started, but the rest of you need to get a move on. Because I'll tell you a really interesting story. Last year in January, I helped Dunalley Primary School, after it got burnt in the Tasmanian bushfires in January, rebuild. Now, unfortunately, one of the things that happened was the school administrator had backed up the hard drive for the school server, stuck it in the vault. The vault got burnt as part of the fire. So all those digital records went backed up anyway. They're on the hard drive. So it's really important when you, especially with house fires, it's important to have those digital records and also receipts. Coming up to tax time, any good accountant will tell you, and I'm guilty as anything, and I'm going to be, I've reformed myself, is receipts are thermal. So if you don't scan and deal with them, or you've kept them out in the open light, they will fade. So get yourself, and as I said, use it, and get yourself into good practice. So when you've bought something, scan it straight away, you've got the record. Some of them, Shoeboxed is one, Expensify is another. Some of the accounting programs actually have that already inbuilt. So the details, the merchant's details, the purchasing, what the purchase is, so that you can actually go back and search for it. And it goes into a CSV report. Okay, so this is one of my workflows. I call it my digital workflow. And as I said, sometimes you don't use just one app. You actually use a combination. This is what I teach all my clients. Often, here's the outcome. They go, I just want to do this. So here, workflow is that they need to add a signature to a document. They need to highlight a document. They need to draw diagrams on the document or something like that. So, save a PDF from email. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're on Android or iOS, you still can do this. The next one is Good Reader or Notability or PDF Reader. There's some free ones out there, but I find the better ones you're looking at about your $5, $6 mark. Basically what these tools are annotations. So you get a document in, whether it's a PDF or a JPEG, and you actually draw over it. So you either highlight it, you sign it, you can do some of those things I mentioned before. Then you save it to either cloud storage, so Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, so you're exporting it out. So you've brought the document in, you've done something to it, you've pushed it out, and then you can send it back out to email. So often if I have a document to sign, it might be quickly, you just need to sign off a training request. So quickly, it's in, signed, kept a record of it, and then it's back out again. So one of my favourite ones, and yes it is only iOS, is Notability. And the reason I like Notability, and there's a few others kind of like it, is that it's got the ability to record audio while you're taking notes. So for example, John, in a presentation you've been taking notes, been busily writing away, and you wanted to record the speaker. So what happens is, it's kind of like karaoke for words. So as the words go play along, you can hear the audio at the same time. Another one is sound note or audio note, but they just do that function. So you might be typing away or your handwriting away, and it's syncing the audio with the typing, which is really handy when you're in a meeting and you're not going to always get anything. So with Notability, I said I've got the pen. Now if you've got a stylus, the biggest question I get is about styluses, because it's actually not about the stylus, it's about the app. So Notability, I can choose kind of that calligraphy kind of pen. So if I need to do a document, it's actually quite fine. And you wouldn't even know I didn't have a stylus. So I can do anything. I can bring diagrams, or if I want to record audio, press that audio button. Otherwise, I can do a figure. So you might need to do a flowchart, and it straightens it up. And then you'd export that back out again. And then you can move it around. So, most important feature is that export. And you want that opening feature. The more apps you have with the iOS devices, the more way you can export it. And it's kind of a similar thing for Android. So you want to be able to move stuff in between apps and then export it to email. The other thing, also look for something that's got handwriting, is look for a palm rest. Quite often with people, and it depends on how you write, look for apps that can determine where you're going to actually put your hand, especially if you're a left-hander. Otherwise, you're basically going to smudge your work. So that's a really important thing. And again, file management is a really important part. If you get into good habits, then it's not going to affect you. Now, my favourite app. No, I'm not paid by Evernote. I wish I was, but I'm not. And I'm not the Evernote ambassador for Australia. That's a girl called Beck Spinks, who's for education. But I do specialise in small business and corporate, and what I call digital productivity. So Evernote is a free app. Free to sign up, and it's basically like your digital filing cabinet. So if you're doing those things like digital, I guess, important documents, so things like your marriage certificates and things like that. When you're setting up systems, even on your desktop computer, make sure you label your folders correctly. The biggest problem I have with my clients is they've got random names. Okay, so it might be general ideas or blog ideas. Well, blog ideas is kind of okay, but you can actually be really specific. Blog ideas could be the overarching notebook, and then you could have January, February, March, April, May, and be a lot more specific with the information. So this is for iOS, or this screenshot is for iOS. So Evernote is available for Android, iOS, BlackBerry, and Windows. And desktop, mobile, Windows, Mac, and web. However, and I will say this very clearly, however, they don't all look the same, and they don't all do the same thing. So if you're on desktop Evernote, it's brilliant. As Mark's nodding his head, I've done a coaching session with Mark for Evernote, and it's like, okay, so in this version, this is what this, oh, by the way, you can't do this on your Android or your iPad. So just keep in mind. So you can do text, camera, you can take different images, so you can use that document camera function, so you can actually scan documents. However, unlike Prismo or Jotnote, you can't select the information carefully. It's a lot more harder. You can set reminders. You can do lists. You know, when you're going to do groceries, you need to have that checkbox. You can go, right, tick, or an agenda meeting, and then you can send it out to a client. So and you've got shortcuts. So Evernote has 3 options: Evernote Free, Evernote Premium, and Evernote Business. Evernote Premium costs roughly $47 a year. Highly recommend upgrading for 2 reasons, or actually 3. One is you can search through Microsoft Office and PDF documents. So if you have scanned some documents, it will still search through them. However, if they're for Microsoft Office attachments or PDF attachments, then you can actually search through them, and it will find the documents with those words mentioned. Find apps that use keywords, what you call tags. They make your life so much easier when you're trying to find information. Because the biggest thing I find with people is I can't find that stupid file. Where is it? What did I label it? Which folder did I stick in? How many times I keep going words, oh bother, where is it now? So Evernote, it's really good to get into a habit. I've got 3 magic steps for anything. So you create your notebook title. You file it in the right notebook to start with. That's step 1. Step 2, give it the right tags. What are the right keywords? Step 3, give it a title for the note. The amount of my clients who go, oh, now what was it that you said, Megan? Oh yes, I need to file it first. It doesn't, because you actually have a default notebook. And if you just stick it in the default notebook, it's not actually getting used properly. So that's why I love it. Sketch is another one that I use with Evernote. Evernote Sketch is free, goes across all platforms, so you can use it on your iPhone. Put your hand up if you've had an instance, and I'll give you a really good example. We had a tradie come out to our house to fix our back door, kitchen, sliding door. But what happened was they'd actually damaged the sliding door, and they'd gone back to the company. And they said, oh no, everything's fine. I'm going, no, everything's not fine, there's a big tear. So I got my iPad, used Sketch, took a screenshot, and put a nice big pink arrow just about the spot where it was damaged, and said, please fix, and sent it back via email. So they had no way of arguing that there wasn't an issue. So sometimes you'll have to mark up documents and you'll have to say, right, fix this, do this. It might be personal, it might be work. So for example, here, you can see I've actually used Sketch. So I've done the red boxes, I've used red text, and I've used the red arrow. So it's a really good example. So, my last slide is Pinterest. Now, you might think Pinterest is a bit of a girly thing. Yes, the demographics are highly female. However, as a small business owner, or even a small to medium business owner, or even those in the corporate sector, you can actually position yourself as a thought leader using Pinterest. Why? You can set up boards on specific topics. Now, my boards are very specific. They're not general things like accounting ideas or end-of-year tax time. Mine are really niche. So Pinterest for business, apps for bloggers, how to use mobile devices in business, apps for business, quotes, Evernote for business, and Google likes Pinterest, believe it or not. So every time you have a board that's really specific, and do your research first as to what people are doing with their boards, but this is perfect because then you can actually share information. Now, it's not all mine, and I'm the first to admit it. And often these Pinterest boards are for me. They're research for me. They're not for anyone else. I just like sharing. and then occasionally I'll put my own material. Mobile devices in business is purely mine. And the reason I put there was I couldn't keep a track of where my blog posts were for the 30-day blog challenge, and the article from Australian Antil, and the article from Smart Company, and the one I did from Leaders and Hills. So they stuck them all in one place. So if you've got a blog that you're passionate about, or you'd like to stick them in one place, it's a really good idea. That's it. Google loves Pinterest. So that's pretty much my presentation. I just wanted to open people's ideas that they can use their devices a little bit more than they are. So next time you get out your device and look at the apps, only another thing, especially if you're on an iOS device, tidy up your home screen. Because guaranteed I'll look at someone's, and I'll never forget one of my first clients, and this was on their desktop. Nobody had ever taught her how to tidy up her icons. So she'd lost things because she couldn't actually see them. So therefore she deleted other things to find them. And so I taught her a simple act of creating a folder so we could actually file them. So it's the same with your iOS or even your Android. Put things in folders so you actually know where to find them. Thank you.
Any questions for Megan? There we go. Just got a question.
I use Evernote a lot, multiple
Yep.
times a day for web clipping.
Yep.
About all I use it for. I'm wondering, I mean, this applies to all these cloud services. What happens if Evernote either gets hacked or goes bust? I mean, I don't know how profitable they are, I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
So it's this kind of leap of faith. This is putting aside any security kind of questions. So I just wonder what you
Look,
think about that.
it's like that with any information. Evernote, or even LinkedIn was, I think, hacked 2 years ago. A lot of cloud services, what most people are now doing are looking for cloud storage that's Australian based. So whether that's through a provider, I met a guy called Cloud IT from Brisbane, people from Cloud IT, and so they have specific storage services like in Australia, because the interesting thing about, I guess, American law is once it goes out of Australian shores, that it's covered by US law. And that's a really interesting thing to keep in mind. Having said that, I still have Dropbox, Google Drive and Evernote, but you can back up. Sometimes I back up my resources as well, because people have heard of 250 notebooks. But it's like with anything in the future, you can have something that's cloud-based and it can collapse. So I would always, my golden rule of thumb with anything is back up 3 days, if you can. My PC died about a month ago, and I've been working on this document, on 3 major documents, and I'm talking about 100 pages plus. And my husband was editing them, so I'd written them and he was editing, and I said, right, whatever you do, make sure you save them to Dropbox. Well, he thought it was taking a bit slow and decided in his wisdom he was going to save it to a memory stick. And what he didn't realise is he wasn't saving it to the memory stick, he was saving it to the hard drive and hadn't been checking to see where he'd been saving it. And then the computer crashed. And he lost a week's worth of editing. And it was a very good lesson to back up in 3 different places. So now, every time I go up for a presentation, I go, so have you backed up in 3 places? And the other day, his memory stick crashed. And so I said, so had you backed up in 3 different places? Oh no. I was like, why not? And it was important documents, things like his resume and cover letters and important documents. They're gone. And the amount of people I've heard saying, oh, but I backed it, I had it on a memory stick. And it's like, really? Memory sticks can crash just as much as external. I mean, I have an external hard drive, and I back my stuff up. And the problem is what you do when the external hard drive crashes and your computer crashes, hence cloud storage.
That brings up the question, what is the suggestion for cloud storage?
It depends on how sensitive your information is. So my lawyer client would not put anything on Box or Dropbox. So we're looking at some cloud solutions for him because of the security of the data. So there are providers around Australia, people from Cloud IT and another guy, John Sutton from Tech Savvy, have solutions that are specific for business owners. that don't want to take that, I guess, external to Australia risk. But it depends on my client and what they'll, like I said, for me, I'm using Dropbox, I'm using Google Drive, and I'm using Evernote. But each person has their own, I guess, issues. It's the same with using things like Xero or Reckon or any MyOb in the cloud. It's the same thing. But it depends on your needs and scalability. Like sometimes space, like with Dropbox, for example, the more you share, the more storage you get. So if you have it on your, say, iPad and Mac and iPhone and Android device, whatever, you get more storage. Or you refer people on. Evernote has a referral system, and you get premium with that. Like you can get points for premium, and so does Dropbox. The more people you refer, more data storage you get.
And I'm sure Megan, you hang around for a couple of minutes as
I
well
will,
if anyone wants to
definitely.
talk anymore. And before you go,
Yep.
you generously said before that Megan, for a door prize, is going to donate. We'll
2
give
hours.
away 2 hours of coaching, which would be an amazing get. So everyone sort of put your positive thoughts towards here.
I'm
Would
not
like
going to
everyone
talk about
out?
my name.
He will.
Claire.
Yeah.
Hey, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you for the